Peace, peace. Welcome to the show. I am your most gracious host, KJ. And this right here is Humble Beginnings, where we simply live it through. Y'all know, I say it all the time, we simply live it through. No matter what adversity or diversity we go through, all we can do is walk that path to get us right where it is that we need to be. All right, man, before I talk to y'all about what we're going to talk about, let me bring my gang up first, man. Rocking with me always, of course, you know, Maddie B. And of course, always my girl Izzy. What's going on, y'all?
Hello. Hi.
How y'all feeling? Y'all good?
I feel amazing.
I feel great.
Cool. All right, y'all, we're going to have us a good conversation. We're going to talk about poor representation. I think this is a good conversation to have because image is everything. You know what I'm saying? Especially today, everybody care about how they look and all this stuff. So I think we need to kind of put kind of see if there's a principle to the concept of imagery, or is it just a simple what I look like? You know what I'm saying? So y'all know how we do it. We're going to get straight into it. I mean, hey, we know we start off light and we like to get a little bit deeper. So since we're talking about representation, my first question is, who do we represent? It's almost like the same question when people be like, who are you? Who do we represent as individuals? So I'm gonna ask more so. I'm asking more so as general because I think everybody in here look like they black. So I think we can say who do we represent as a people? Izzy, talk to me, man. Who do we represent?
That is a big question. Because we represent so many things simultaneously. We can represent a mother, a daughter, a son, a brother. We can represent I guess in like whatever career field we go into, or whether we do good and bad. More so specifically, we can even represent I guess like how people view people like me, like maybe like a black woman, or like I don't know. I'm African, so an African woman, so I don't know. Like there's so many variations of representation that go simultaneously, all at the same time. So yeah.
Cool. Matt, who do we represent, man?
I think we represent ourselves first and foremost. The circle that we run with, whether that's family. I also think represent certain, like how Izzy said, you represent a lot of things simultaneously. So if, say example, you at work, whoever hired you, the people that put you in position and entrusted you, I think you represent them in aspect as far as the work environment. Whether your day-to-day life, I think you represent yourself first and foremost.
Cool. Yes, I'm in 100% agreement with that. I think yes, we can definitely represent many different things, but I definitely think we represent ourselves first. So if I was to be more like specific towards me, like I'm a father, I represent this Hayward thing. You know what I'm saying? That's my last name. That's where the tribe starts first. We got to start small before we start saying about representing the whole entire community. But I represent us. I represent my bloodline. I represent my people. And I don't mean black people, because I got way more than black people within my family. But I do represent my family. So I think it definitely starts off with representing me and representing where I come from as far as my actual bloodline and my lineage. And then it builds outward. And then you start representing a multitude of things. But I think ultimately it definitely starts with yourself first as far as that representation. What are some of the best ways y'all think that there is to represent your community? Like the way you live. What do you think are some of the best, ways to represent the community itself? Matt, what you think about that?
I would say holding yourself accountable. I would also say building a family, like just not having like a lot of single mothers out here. Like if you recklessly just having sex, creating single mothers in your community. I think that would be a bad representation. So I would say the opposite of that would be a good representation, seeing a strong unit. The kids that you're raising, instilling your principles, if you have good principles and values, into them, because they're going to be the next generation that's coming up in that community. I would say those are some things that you can represent your community well, and also holding people accountable as well. Even though we don't do that as much in the Black community, but like some communities hold other people accountable by, if someone's not doing the right thing, they can be like removed from the community or outcasted from the community. In like some of these Jewish neighborhoods, these certain other areas, they have community watch where if somebody is doing crime, they don't have a stigma on calling the police, reporting us, and they have a good relationship with the police. So they build their communities on everybody working as a unit, and also having those connections where we can instill discipline and certain values in this community. So I think those are just some ways I would see that can be a good representation on your community.
Okay. Izzy, what you think, man? What are some of the best ways you think that we can represent the community?
I think some of the best ways you can really represent it is just who you are as a person and the values you hold as a person, because your community starts with you. So you have to, like Matt said, kind of hold yourself accountable, and you have to just like represent, and I guess if you want the community to be positive, you kind of have to, again, like really hold like you and others, especially the people that are closer to you, accountable. Because again, it really just starts with you. So as soon as you have like those values in check, that you are the community. So you really have to be accountable for yourself, and what you bring and what you uphold and what you believe in. So that's what I believe.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you. I think it definitely start. I think you definitely got to hold yourself and the people of the community accountable. I think in its truest form, whatever you seek out to be the representation of you should be the exact same thing you push for the representation of the community. Like if you don't want certain levels of, say, like violence or something within the community, I think we should be upstanding in that push of controlling and bottlenecking things that would typically lead to violence. I think as far as education, I think that if we want to bring forth a representation of an intelligent community, I think that we need to push education. We need to push these discipline. We need to push everything that we want to see as resemblance. We should stand behind it and we should push it. It's hard to name specifics because it all depends on that person, because everybody don't have the same ideals of what they want to represent. You know what I'm saying? But I think you should definitely be true for anyone. You need to be true to whatever it is you want that representation to be. So I totally agree with that. So in America, because that's where we at. As far as Black people are concerned, do y'all think that we have a respectful representation amongst, I say, the world, because the world watches us because of the internet? Do y'all think in this country, do we have a respectful representation as Blacks? Matt, what you think?
I would say no. Not. I would say no as far as like what we represent as the majority, because even the successful people in our community a lot of time don't represent the highest values of things that most communities would seek out for their community to be built up on. And I think some people, even they feel like they're representing something positive, but they don't understand the impact that it has on other people, because I think our representation is mainly athletes, rappers, just entertainment, just pretty much the entertainment background. But there's only going to be a few people in the world that are going to be great entertainers. The main thing communities strive off is hard working 9-to-5 guys that are able to excel in trades, invest in, just being knowledgeable on how finances work in economics. And I don't think we represent our communities from an economic standpoint, but we represent our community for a talented standpoint.
Okay. Izzy, what you think? You think we have a respectful representation in this country of ours?
I do not believe so. I mean, I just say that because, we have to look at, like, the people who are, like, I guess, most looked at and, like, represents our community the most. And again, that would be what Matt said, and that's more so like, like the ball players, the entertainment industry, because their music is shared, like, worldwide. And it really represents, like, um, a genre of who we are, not like all of us collectively, but a genre of who we are. And, like, even like if you listen to like the music, because I think that's like one of the things that's like shared like the most, about like, our culture and who we are as like, Black people. I just feel like, like even like how they refer to, like, the woman in our um in our cultural group, and like, how they like refer to even the men, and like, they glorify, the whole like, the sex, the drugs, being like kind of like the scum of the earth to make it come up. I don't know, like, getting how you live in, but I don't think that that type of genre of us should be shared like at a capacity as it is. There's like there's things that are wrong with, like, um all cultural groups, like, um with like Caucasian people, it's more so like, oh, uh what is it? Sex, guns, rock and roll, something like that, something like that. And it's not as like, it's not as like critical as ours, but I think it's just because, like, we've had like, like the struggle to like come up from the jump of America, pretty much. So that's why it's like, we could be doing the same thing, but it's like a little bit more detrimental that we do it, because it's like, there's not like, I mean, there is, but there's not like this like respected respected come up, I feel like. I don't know. It's but to put a long answer short, no, I don't believe so, that we are respected in the representation that we have here.
So I definitely, I mean, I agree with both of you. We definitely do not have a respectful representation, but to gear towards like your last point, I think one of the reasons we don't have a respectful representation is because we take pride in a lot of foolishness. Like, we take a lot of pride in disrespectful type of stuff, and because we are so prideful about it, people look at it and then be like, "Yo," be like, "Oh, that boy, that woman, they crazy, and they like being it." So it's like they're like, "Nah." We of course think that's foolish and stupid, but they happy and they do it. It's almost like the idea of like, people hate when I do this, but it's almost like the same concept of like seeing a retarded child, and it's like, I don't really want to correct it because can't really correct it because that's probably just them. And then we know how sensitive times we are in too. That if you do go to kind of try to criticize, because we as Black people don't like to be criticized, but too much, especially from other races. We like, if white people go to try to tell us something, we get real up in arms because we be like, "Yo, you ain't gonna tell me what to do," and all this other stuff like that. I'm gonna do it my way and I'm gonna carry it on. But I think like it's the pride. Like, we have a lot of foolish pride. And I think that foolish pride becomes our representation. I think it's to the point that what we even put in the forefront, like the entertainment, like the music, we see how they talk, we see how they carry on, we see the disrespect, but we happy with it. We got so many double standards amongst the things that we say. It sounds stupid. Like a woman to say, "Yo, don't call me a bitch," but then talking to her friends, "Bitch, you crazy," all this other stuff. I was like, what the hell? So is it disrespectful or is it not disrespectful? See, we play a funny line with disrespect. Same way when it comes to people, when it comes to the word nigga. The word, spelling it with an A is the exact same as an ER, but we play stupid games to make it seem like it's actually something different. But we'll say it's disrespect, but we'll say we use it as a term of endearment. But the word nigga means nigga, and it got heavily implemented in our community because we kept putting each other down. And what happens is when you do something to someone long enough, it just doesn't resonate the same no more. Like if you got a child and you call them stupid all the time, at some point, being called stupid will not bother them anymore. So the same thing comes with the word nigga. We'll say nigga over and over and over and over again. So it don't register to us. But so white person said all of a sudden now we remember that the word was disrespectful. It's disrespectful even when we say it, but yeah, we still do it. So it's a pride thing. Like we try to make things acceptable, which that are literally just disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when I see that type of concept, I was like, what I hear people saying is, it's okay for the people who look like me to disrespect me, but then it's not okay for people who don't look like me to disrespect me. That's crazy to me. Because I address disrespect as disrespect. But, I mean, that's just my thoughts. Let's narrow it down. Because we talking community and things of that nature. Let's bring it into a smaller scope. Let's sniper this thing in. When it comes to relationships, do we believe that we are a reflection of our spouse? Like, when you look at that person, do you actually see your representation within them? So that's the question. Do we see that resemblance or that reflection of ourselves within our spouse? Izzy, talk to
me. Yeah. I mean, what, like, we are our own person, don't get me wrong, but we definitely do represent, like, you know, I guess the things that they allow, because I always like to say, what you permit, you promote. So if you're promoting, I guess, like, let's say the person's or your spouse is like disrespectful, or maybe he's like lazy, or he's, I don't know, I don't know, he's just involved in things that he shouldn't be involved in. It's a representation of you, even though you don't partake in it, because you're allowing, like, that type of behavior, and then in that environment that the behavior brings around you. I mean, like, you can always control yourself. You can't control other people, and other people can't control other people. So when they're involved in things that you're not really like for, I mean, you have to be for it in some sense, because you're allowing this person to be around you when, they're involved in things that you're not for. So, yes, like, they are definitely a representation of you.
Okay. Matt, what you think about that?
I think if they're on your program, they're fully a representation of you if they're on your program. But a lot of us in our community, we're not following, any leadership or following no one's program. Either your program or the program y'all created together will be your program. So if she's not on, or you are not on her program, well, that sounds kind of weird, but if she's not on your program, y'all following a leadership role, then it would be a representation of your leadership, but it wouldn't be a full representation, a mirror representation of you. But I can see where it'd be a representation of your leadership. But if she is on your program, then you would get a full actual mirror of what you want in a wife if she's doing exactly to how you would like for your kingdom to be built. So that's my take on that.
Like when people say, when people talk about the reflection and they be like a leadership, like if you were a woman, right, and say if that woman is kind of like unruly, like say she's just that unruly, is that a reflection of your leadership though?
Yeah, because I mean, you saying that it's your kingdom. You saying that you allow this in there. If it's not what you want it to be, you need to remove it. So if she is unruly, that means she is not following the command that you want in your house for her to be unruly. So it does show that your leadership isn't there. Either she's not following, or you're not cutting it off where you need to be cutting it off. You're allowing it, and by accepting it, even if you're going against it, if you're accepting it and you're not cutting it off, I mean, I'm saying it wrong, but it's a form of acceptance if you're not cutting it off. You accept
Izzy, what you think?
You're talking to me?
Well, I had to ask. Izzy, what you think about that? When if a man is the leader and that woman is just that unruly, is that an actual reflection of his actual leadership?
I mean, yeah. Like, because, you know, I do feel like maybe like if anybody would be at fault for this, it probably would be like maybe like an older couple, because maybe over time, like like they've just like gotten like used to like certain things that they just didn't like originally, but it'd be too much effort to like really like remove it, so they just got used to it. But like accepting defeat is like a flaw in your leadership, like whether it's like I guess whether you see it be like for like I guess a peaceful matter or not, it's still like a flaw, because originally you would not have accepted that that type of character flaw in someone that like I guess you wouldn't have accepted that character flaw originally, but like because like I guess of attachments and things like that, you just gotten like used to it, and you just like died down who you were and who you were as a leader. So I do think that can potentially be a character flaw and can lead into other issues as well.
Okay, so let's break this down, because I heard like associative factors and a lot of stuff in there. So like I know Matt mentioned like kingdom and all of that stuff like that. I ain't saying nothing about being a king. I just said a leader. Now, when we talking about just the leadership, like if that woman is just that unruly, right? Because my answer to that would be no. But I'm saying no in a reason, because if someone is unwilling to just participate or play ball, I don't think it's a reflection of my leadership if she's just that uncooperative. Because I can't make her, because then you're gonna have to give me a level of autonomy then, to where I could be like, oh, I could make her. I can put forth whatever level of discipline I see fit, without any repercussions. Because for that to be that direct reflection of my leadership, then I should be able to run this how I see fit. But that's not the case, though. You really can't run it how you see fit. Like if a man's dealing with a woman and she's just that uncooperative, what he gonna be able to do? Only thing he can do is just leave.
Does that man not have a process of choosing a woman? He just wasn't handed any woman, right? He had a process in choosing the woman that he felt he could leave.
Yes, he does. He does have a hand in that process.
Unruly is something flawed about his system that he has in place to get him the desired results.
Yeah, but he could still be a good leader. He's just not good in the delegating area of leadership.
I mean, he might be a good leader on the outside. I'm saying as far as the household, he's not a good leader in the household if his household is chaos.
Well, the household is the household chaos just because one person is a problem?
It could
like
be.
If all the kids in line and everything like that, but one person is just out of line, does that make the whole household chaos?
Heck yeah. Yes, absolutely. Because especially the kids, they're watching everything. They're seeing what you're allowing, and they're seeing what you're promoting, and they're going to keep notes, and that's going to give them permission to later on. Maybe they might not understand it now because they're children and they're just like, naturally obedient. But when they get older, they're going to see, oh, hey, she was out here acting out of pocket. Why am I supposed to respect you? It's like a flaw. It's like, this is why I said it's going to create potential problems, potentially.
Yeah, I understand that it can go into a domino effect, but I'm talking about that moment. If there's 3 kids in the house, the kids are in line, you got a structure, but she's just out of pocket. Her being out of pocket makes the whole home chaotic.
Yes. Because the man is the leader. If the man said he don't want the household to be chaos, and it's his household, I'm assuming that's leading. Because you got women say maybe a little different, but I'm assuming this is the man that leading. Obviously, the king isn't happy on how his household is being ran. So I think the other factor, just because the kids are in line, they don't change the fact that me as the top person don't want my household to be like this, and it is like this.
But why isn't that just that person that chaotic? Because technically, if it's a household of 5 people and 4 people in line, 1 person out of line, how is that the whole house chaotic?
No, you remove. I believe that it's gonna play some role into.
No. I'm not talking about the downward adding on effect. I'm in agreement with both of y'all. That one bad apple can, but I'm talking about that particular moment. Just in that moment. That if 1 person gets out of line, does that make the whole infrastructure out of line?
If you go on it at just that moment, no, because we don't. If we go on
that's what I'm asking. That's why I'm being very particular about my words. I understand when we start talking about the things that could happen. I don't want to focus on what could happen because anything could happen. Because them kids could see their mama out of line and not take that route at all too. If we could just play hypothesize or some shit.
I mean,
I don't want to focus on what could happen. I'm going to address that actual moment. So that's why I'm saying, does that literally mean the whole house is in chaos?
At that exact moment, it's just a reflection of her at that exact moment, because we don't know the outcome. We don't even know if he's corrected or not. If we just looking at the individual moment, it's just it's on her. If we look at the individual moment, that's my opinion about that.
So to the immediate question that are we a reflection of our spouse? I would say we should be, but I don't think we actually are. I don't think we don't even view ourselves like that, especially in the Black community. It sounds cute to hear people say that, but we don't. Because if we actually believe that, we wouldn't be so at odds with each other. If that woman viewed herself as a reflection of that man, then she wouldn't be so at odds with that man. If that man viewed himself as a reflection of that woman, he wouldn't be so at odds with that person. If we are already this. Now, we might want it to be because we should be, but I don't believe we are the reflection. It's just like the overall community. One of the reasons why this guy wouldn't have a problem shooting me is because he doesn't see himself. Because if he saw himself, he probably would think twice about shooting me. Or when it gets to violence within a home, if that person saw himself or herself, they probably would second guess a lot of the things that acts that they do because they saw themselves. One of the reasons people don't mind acting out is because they're not seeing themselves. Now we should see that reflection, but I don't believe that we really, really view ourselves as reflections of each other.
Or they just don't have a high view of themselves in the first place. So even if they see themselves,
I was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that. I was like, what if they do see themselves, but what if they actually have a self-hate for themselves, so they don't even care?
Well, that could be true.
A lot of people don't value themselves that high in the first place. So even if
that could be true. I don't disagree with that at all.
Even if they see themselves with other people, they like, shit, I don't care about my life. So life.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I see that scenario a lot too, that they don't have that for themselves. So their behavior simply fits, like their recklessness towards a lot of things is because they might not be caring whether or not they live or die, what they destroy, or who get hurt within the process. I could definitely see it. I definitely could see that. How important is your representation towards the family as a child? And I'm addressing this from a child's point of view versus the parent's point of view. I'm gonna probably tap into both angles, but I want to hear it first from a child, because everybody's always cliche with what they say of how you should represent the family from the other side, like you being a parent and you got to lead the children. But I want to hear do we understand that there's also another level of importance from the other end, because it ain't just one side. Because remember, we're saying we're representations and mirroring each other. So how important is it for a child to understand their decisions and things of that nature as far as their representation of their parents? What y'all think about that concept of them having that representation and how important that goes into it? Izzy, what you think about that? How important is that representation of that child to that family?
I think there is an extreme amount of pressure that's put on children, and it's crazy because they didn't even like ask to be there. They're just I can assume that they're just trying to like figure things out, figure life out as we still are. Sometimes, a lot of the times, they're not even given like all the tools to like really have like the best shot. But I think a lot of parents put a lot of extreme pressure because it's like I guess it's like they represent like I guess their gene pool. They represent like their intelligence. They represent like it's not that they actually represent it, but a lot of parents like to hoist like hoist like their I guess their own agenda and like their own like I want to say like they really like host like their own like um unrealistic standards for their children because they are basically like a clean shot of like who they are and like how they wanted to like live life. They kind of like live vicariously through their kids, so through that like a lot of kids are like maybe not a lot, well I won't say a lot because I don't know, but I can say like a lot. I keep saying a lot, but some people like like to put like these unrealistic standards on their kids just because again like they are basically trying to live life through their kids, so they don't, the kid basically like already has like a planned life, but we are supposed to be autonomous creatures, every single one of us, even children. So well at least until like you're now of age apparently, but like it's I don't think it's like really fair, but like this is just like how a lot of parents see fit. So like a lot of the times like kids like they're like they have like this unrealistic especially like foreign parents, I feel like, because if you're like foreign, essentially like you're coming into this country with like no actual like legacy. So you're really like, um, you're really like holding your children to like these standards, like to like become like, this great and super thing when they don't even have like, the chance to explore what they want to do. So I don't know, like children just have like a huge representation of like the family because it just represents like, status, wealth, intelligence, um, um, and yeah, everything that those parents like see like as like primal in that family legacy, those children, it's up to them to like represent.
Yeah, I think because we're talking about the overall representation of what we want to see them to, even like once they fall into their adulthood and how they like pretty much carry on lineage. But I think as a child, like of still a minor, the only thing representation part you have is just behavior.
Yeah,
Like that's the only really thing you can really show is just your behavior. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
true. That is
Because
true.
all,
That's
all that other stuff is like the stuff you want to see them turn as an adult. You get what I'm saying? Like you want to make sure they into all these prestiges and all this other stuff like that because you want to see them run this company and all this like that's the stuff you want to see them do later.
well, yes, but when you say behavior, like anything can be any anything can like curate behaviors can curate literally anything though. So I
Yeah, but we're
mean
talking
like
about just behavior itself.
behavior isn't good and bad and like
Well, I don't
that's
believe in good and bad. I'm talking about just your actions. Like you can make your family look bad by your actions. Like you can shame your family by actions. Like say if you got a child who they might discover or they might have seen, maybe some profanity. All of a sudden they get out there in school and then they just start cursing teachers out. That's a family representation. That says a lot because your child is behaving a certain way. Or if you got a child who loves to fight a lot. Like these are behavioral representations. Because we're not expecting you at 7th grade to be a doctor or have all this other stuff, but what we do expect for you to act like you got fucking common sense for you to not be doing, those type of things. I think it's just behavior while they're minors. Now, when they get older, I think the expectations, like how you say, I think they become very, very great. Like they want to see their children be all kind of nuclear physicists and all astronauts and all kind of shit, because now you're pushing something different. But I think as children, I think it only lies within behavior, which is, I think it's very simple. That's not hard at all. There's nothing unrealistic about telling a child, yo, don't talk back. There's nothing unrealistically of telling you about, yo, you need to know how to control yourself and not just start fighting people. You don't have to be picking and calling kids names. Like, there's nothing hard about that.
So what about, like, I guess, like, in order to, like, I guess, like, transition to, like, all those other, like, those genius, like, careers, like an astronaut or whatever have you, those, I think you have to look at the behaviors that would generate that as a child as well. Like, so it's like, expecting to being expected to get good grades, again, like having like good, like,
curriculum expectations is separate than just direct actionable behaviors, though. I get what you're saying. I agree with that. Yes, if you want to forecast that, you're going to get into academics and things of that nature, but those are still things that are being set for you later. I'm talking about the right then, like your direct representation at that moment, because they do have a level of representation at that moment.
Give us the age rate. Give us the age rate.
I said as long as you're a minor.
So that's 18.
Yes.
16 some places, but yeah, 16.
Yes,
17.
That's why I said as long as you're a minor.
Okay.
Like your representation is just behavior. That other stuff comes, like, yeah, you want the good grade and all that, but when you start aiming at the prestigious, this is for later. It's not for that. That's not that moment, because you're not about to be a doctor right now. We know you still got a lot more to go, but we still want you to have your grades and all this other stuff like that too. But your direct representation at that moment is really just behavior.
Well, so would you because like behavior is such a broad spectrum, like, so what would you consider, like, I guess, like, sexual orientation, or the way you, I guess the way you treat other people could fall under behaviors too.
Yeah,
but there's so
people would be that.
But there's so many other things that have, like, a high expectation and, like, would be considered a part of representation that kids uphold, other than behavior. I feel like if it was just behavior, then it would just be like, oh, I'll stay out of trouble. Oh, I'll be good. But I just feel like there's this, like,
well, what are the other things outside of behavior that is placed upon a minor?
Well, give me a second to think.
That becomes the family reflection, like that representation. What would those things be?
I would say achievements, but that's not really done by people in the Western culture. But I would say achievements by certain communities are a big representation of family.
Yeah, but we talked about that part when we get into that, like, academics and things of that nature, because that's what you're building more so for them to turn out as an adult. I'm talking about,
but that's still like that's something that's considered as a minor as well, though.
No. But I'm not negating that. That's what I'm saying. We already covered that part. But tell me something else, because you said there were a lot of things. So we know academics going to play a role, yes. But your instance is really a minor is just behavior.
I think image. Image.
I mean, that's what we're talking about. Representation is image. I mean, that's the whole point of the show.
Well, I'm saying even outside of even the representation can be behavior as well. I'm thinking representation, even though that's image, it's image from behavior.
So what is it? Because we're talking about image. I mean, that's what we're talking about. So that's why I said of a poor representation for most minors would typically be more so behavior. Now, yes, the academics do fall in place, but I'm trying to understand what else would it be outside of those.
Even as literal as just using the same word in image, because image also is the way you present yourself as far as fashion. As far I'm saying image of that,
I mean, you're adding in the actual thing we're talking about. You're not saying anything different because we're talking about image. That's what we're talking about. I'm asking you what would be a negative reflection of the image.
Well, what about like
what reflects a negative image? As
like
the
maybe
mind.
like
even though, because sometimes with a kid, based on the fashion of a kid or the way a kid presents itself fashionably, that can affect the image of the family, not necessarily in that same realm. It can affect the image of the family in a different image, because image isn't just one thing as well.
The fashion, like what?
Like if the family's known for being like prestige, and this kid goes there with like his pants sagging, or like
or piercings or tattoos.
But that's behavior. That's behavior. That's what I said that. That's behavior.
But behavior.
You're choosing.
Behavior is everything. Then.
But that's what I was saying. I was saying it was two parts. As a child, it's really just behavior. Not make your family look bad within your actions. And then, of course, on the other side would have been the things that they push towards prestige. That's why I was like, it is just that simple. It's just the actions, your day-to-day actions of your behavior.
So would sexuality be under the umbrella of behavior?
It could be. It could be. It could be. If that's the emphasis, but see, I don't include. It could be. I don't deal with having sexuality conversations just when I'm talking about minors. But that's why I say it could be. But I think there's no realm for this until about high school when we start really building into that. But I think because now we hearing people have conversations about sexuality and we talking about kids that in like fucking first grade and second grade. So it's like these conversations are confusing because this shouldn't even be a conversation on the table. But it can be. I would say it can be because by the time they start getting to understanding sex around that high school age is where it would show, yes. Which they're still a minor. So it can be.
Okay. Okay.
Is dating outside of your race a poor representation? Matt, what you think?
Is the outside of your race dating?
Is the dating outside of your race, the dating to the marriage, all of this, is the being with different races, is that considered a poor representation? And I'm asking this question because we're talking about imagery. A lot of people, like, they view if you are not with your race, that's a bad representation. There are a lot of people who believe this.
I believe for 95% of the people, it's not. I think for only like 5% of the people, they hold that high value because most people don't come from a family of wealth. So a lot of people that really are big on wealth or they big on like family lineage, they big on their race, build from their race. But most people don't think like that. The average family isn't thinking about. The average family isn't thinking about where our wealth is being divided at in what community. So I think even though people talk about it a lot, more so of a not necessarily a negative image as far as on the person dating outside. More of a equal thing to that person. Because when people feel like you date out the race, it almost like they have an issue in themselves. It makes them feel like was we not good enough for you? A lot of people when I hear them talk, it's a lot of that going on. Or I'm not good enough for that black woman that she dating a white man, or this, or we not good enough as black women that he got to go date a white woman. It's more so they look bad up on themselves when they see somebody else go to another race. More so, especially somebody that's kind of like got notoriety. I would say it's not a negative image on like 90% of the people. I think that's only for a minor view of people that affects.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree. I mean, I think it can be. It just depends on what your people represent. Because culturally, some people, like you take like a lot of Asian cultures, it would be super of a poor representation for a lot of them because they believe in keeping it amongst them and classes too. So when we talk classes, a lot of these things matter. So I think but as far as just dealing with the race side, it all depends on where you're coming from. Like you have people who might claim to be pro-black, and a lot of the people who say they pro-black believe that it is a very poor representation if you go outside because pro would be having mostly people putting black first, and they would say it's very hard to put black first if say your wife is Asian or white or whatever may have you.
Yeah, it's crazy that they say that, but because it's kind of double talking because people say that, and I know what you mean by that. Yeah, say that, but at the same time, they'll say if you got 1% black, black. So the issue, especially if it's a black man that has a white woman, you know what I'm saying? They'll say you're not pro-black, but at the same time, that's kind of contradicting the statement they make about if a child got 1% of black, they're black. So obviously they know that that's not the truth. Know that a mixed
Well,
kid
you're grabbing two different things because the people who implemented the one drop rule did that. The reason for that is something totally different than kind of what we're talking about, though, because that's not necessarily that person who put that forward. You know what I'm saying? Like that whole one drop rule came from the U.S. The whole thing of the development of the U.S. Census. So that's a whole nother angle to that, though.
well, I'm talking about the black people that's saying it. Most black people don't know. Most black people think that's an actual fact that 1% black. So I'm saying when they use that phrase and then also say that you wouldn't be pro-black if you're outside your race, kind of like they're admitting it's neat to have a black kid a black man needs to have a black child by a black woman for them to be black.
Yeah. Easy, what you think about that? Is the dating outside of your race a poor representation of the people?
I wouldn't say it's poor because I mean, I guess it really just depends on the intentions of the individual, and it falls on a spectrum. On one end of the spectrum, it can go as bad as, like, I'm dating someone outside of my race because I don't love myself and I don't love my people and I don't want to replicate my people. And on, like, the other end of the spectrum, it could just be like, um, this is the person I'm attracted to. I love my race, I love my people, but this is the person that I, like, love, and this is who I see as, like, the mother or the father of my child. um and it doesn't really have to be anything more or less. So it just really depends, I feel like, on the individual. A lot of people, like, will say, well, I'm gonna say just black people because, like, I'm black, and I obviously hear things that go on in our community. But a lot of people will say, like, oh, a lot of people are trying to date outside of their race because, again, like, it's more so on the more negative end of the spectrum where they don't want to replicate themselves. And I think in that sense it is a poor representation because I feel like, at the end of the day, like, you still are part of that child. Like, so I feel like, if you don't love yourself as a person and you're, raising, a child who doesn't really have, like, any, like, sense of, like, like, hate and, like, I guess, like, racism and things like that, like, and you're raising a child and you hating yourself. I mean, it could potentially be a negative thing and a negative impact on the community because hurt people, and then so on and so forth. So um potentially it could be, you know and again, on, like, the more simpler side, it could just be like, a love is love type of thing, and you can't help who you love. But I think there is a lot of, like, people who try to eradicate their race because they don't love themselves.
Do you really believe that you can't help
Oh,
who you love?
What?
Do you really believe that you can't help who you love?
uh
It's a lot of choices. I mean, you can choose who you love.
I think in some senses, yes. Like, I haven't come across it, but rumor has it that sometimes that happens. So I'm just saying what the rumor is.
I,
They-
I also believe that it's very, very minute of people that they out there because they hate themselves. I hear a lot of people use that talking point. I think that's crazy. I think, like I said, I think they're just afraid about this just because it sounds good. I don't think people are dating outside their race because they hate their race or they hate themselves. I think that's very minute.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think people do that whole hate yourself thing is like a way to shame you for not dating within your race. like,
I don't.
because even
I think it's like kind of like bullshit for someone else to say that about like someone else's situation, but like you can kind of tell, from the pattern of dating to like like how they carry themselves and who their personality and what their personality is and their behaviors, kind of like what they believe and what they they
But how
kind of
would
like.
they hate themselves?
I mean, I don't think it's like I hate myself. I don't think it's like anything like that. I think it's like they just don't. They know what they went through as a kid, and they didn't feel like adequate love, and they didn't see representation on like for themselves, like maybe on the television, or that and representation that was positive, or they didn't like they just didn't feel, they just maybe they felt like in school that like they just felt like they were chosen last, and they just don't want, they feel like they might not have like the capability to raise a person to like beat the adversity that they had to deal with. That's what I kind of mean by like, that's what I mean by self-hate. I don't think they actually like hate themselves, because if they hate themselves, I don't know, that can be a slippery slope. I just feel like they just don't have like in the back of their head, they just know that they don't have like the skill set to raise like a strong, person that's fully their race.
Yeah, I get what you're saying now. Now that you're cleaning up, not hate, but I get what you're saying. I've
Yeah.
heard that if they were like born dark skinned and they had it real hard, that when they produce kids, they want like a lighter child because they feel like I don't want the child to go through, what I went through. Or
Exactly.
I don't think that's the
Exactly.
hate. But I get what you're saying. I can see where they can say they hate how society had treated them, so they
Exactly. They don't actually hate themselves. They just hate how society treats people like them.
I think we need to find something else to say though. Don't say self-hate though, because when you say
Yeah,
self-hate, so I get, because I understood what you were saying too when you was explaining it. I was like, I get that, but we just need to change that terminology. Don't say self-hate then, because that ain't got nothing to do with.
Then what should I say? Please educate me.
I don't know,
Me.
but I don't know, but I wouldn't say self-hate, because when you say self-hate, then it would be exactly that, the hating of oneself.
Well,
because I give you an example. Beyonce's father said he purposely wanted a white woman because he believed that biracial singers had a better chance of being famous than dark-skinned singers. He's not doing that because of self-hate. He's doing it because he feels like business-wise it makes more sense.
Yeah, that ain't got nothing to do with hate at all. That's why I said I just wouldn't use that terminology, because to say hate is like you're literally using a term that don't even fit. It don't even belong there.
Yeah, I wake up not loving the skin I mean when you say self-hate.
Yeah,
I'm just using the terminology that has been used. Do not.
We're not. I'm not attacking you. That's why I was just saying. I was like, I would kind of caution people not to say those type of words, because we always hear people when they start making their points, like in the community, because I know where they come from, because I hear people, they do say that, and it's like when they start saying, hey, it's like, yo, you're literally making a false statement, because that's not what that is.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, that's not that.
Yeah, especially in large portions now. Like I said, that's very minute. I rarely meet people like that, but I have met people that anything associated, sunflower seeds, Kool-Aid, like anything associated, like they completely against. Like you can just tell, tell how they move with everything. They don't like the way you're dressed. They shy away from tattoos. They shy away from certain slangs. When you drink Kool-Aid around them, they shame you for it. They just hate everything associated. And it was a guy I used to work with at a job. He actually was like that. And when you had conversations with him, he would say sometimes, I wish I wasn't born back. So I've seen people that actually do hate themselves, and that's rare.
Yeah, I think that's That's definitely a rare scenario.
Yeah.
So what I want to. Oh, Izzy, what country? What country your folk from? Your people's from?
Nigeria.
What is the culture around the dating outside your race there?
Um, I think now it's a little bit more like a little bit more flexible, but I just know that like I personally was instructed to marry a Nigerian.
They'll feel away if you married them. If you met you, were you born here?
I was.
So would your parents feel away? Your parents born here or were they born over there? I'm trying to see where
They're
did y'all come?
they were born in Nigeria. They
Oh, okay.
immigrated over
So they would
here.
have a problem with you marrying an American black person?
I don't think so. I mean, honestly, I think I think at this point my parents has lost all hope in terms of like me listening to what they want me to do, what they want me to do. So, I mean, I think they know that like I'm just gonna do what I want, honestly. So
I was
yeah,
just about to ask you that. I was about, is that your fault, Izzy? Like, are you the rebellious child? So they just
I
gave up.
am I am
How
the
many
black
siblings
sheep
you got?
of the family, huh?
How many siblings you got?
I have three brothers.
You're the youngest, or where do you fit in there?
I'm the second oldest.
Oh, okay. So you just rebellious. So they was like, ain't no telling what this damn
I
girl
mean,
gonna
they
do.
gave me no choice. They put these like unruly rules on me. I had no choice but to do so. So I have no regrets.
I get it. I get it.
If you necessarily, I don't know if you believe in like pro-black as a thing. I know you don't believe in it. You don't follow what I say, but you do you believe that's even like a legitimate thing? And then I'm also,
No, I
uh,
don't. I
I've actually,
don't.
okay, let me ask KJ right quick. I got you though. So I want to feedback off something.
Okay. But yeah, to answer your question short, I really don't believe that's a thing. That's like very weird to me actually. Like, okay, like you're pro I would assume all black people should be pro black, you know? Like, like I don't know. It's just like it's even on a survival standpoint, like you have to kind of be like pro black to like, to survive and like, keep thriving as a black person in this country. If
Well, you
not,
can just be pro. You can be pro self.
I mean, yes, but like myself is black. I'm black, so it's
Yeah,
like
but to the thing of like striving and survival, that's not more predicated because you're black. It's more so predicated because it's just like it's more you. Like
I mean,
I get when people say that. Like they try to make what you're doing be because you're black.
I mean,
And it's like,
I
but it's
I
not.
say
You're not
so.
doing that because you're black. You're doing
Well,
that
no,
because
no.
human nature, most living organisms, number one task or thing that they try to do is to survive. It ain't got shit to do with, oh, this is a plant, oh, this is an elephant, oh, this is a human. No, most living organisms try to continue living.
Okay, yes. Agreed. But like when I say that, like and I say like I feel like it should just be like an understood thing that like we should all be like black people should be pro black is because of how our lineage started in this country. Like if we weren't pro black, all the things that we do are looked at on a scope. So if we weren't, holding ourselves to a certain accord, we wouldn't get certain jobs. If we weren't walking, talking, acting a certain type of way, we just wouldn't be represented in a positive way, which would have a domino effect in our culture, and we wouldn't be able to like be I mean we'd still be able to like survive somehow some way, but like we would continue to be like the lesser like race. And like I think like a lot of the way like a lot of black people like paved a lot of ways for us, and paved a lot of ways for and like had like our culture really like be something to be proud of. I think that we like kind of like flipped like something that was like a negative thing. So this is why I say like we should all like I feel like it should be like it's like it's a survival thing. We don't have the luxury of like not like, you know, being pro-black. I mean, unless we're like a rapper and like we can just say like, oh, like fuck bitches get money, like I sniff coke, yay, you know, like things like that. It's like, you know, we don't have the luxury to do that if we're not being paid to be like, you know, a negative outlet for the culture. So I don't know. I just feel like it's just like an understood thing that
So I think
we because there's a lot of like negative and there's a lot of like hate to have for on our side. We do have like a justified right to like, you know, act a certain way, treat people a certain way, but we don't because, you know, at the end of the day, like everything that we do reflects upon us and it's a representation upon us, and they're already looking for ways to not represent. I'm sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted. They're already looking for ways to not represent us, so it's like, you know, it's like almost in like our DNA. It's almost in like our like inner workings to be pro-black. I feel like.
so. I think pro-black is just an ideology. I think those talking points that people have when they address pro-black, I think is fucking stupid. I am pro me.
Well, I'm saying it's an
I am
understood thing.
pro.
I'm just saying it's an understood. I'm not even saying like, yeah, pro-black. I'm just saying it's like
Oh
an
no, no, no,
understood.
no, no. I'm not saying it like to anything which you have said. I'm just talking about like the in general the movement of the pro-black. Like the cats who move as pro-black. I think it's stupid. You know what I'm saying? I think that we move. Well, I ain't gonna say we. With this, I gotta only speak for myself. I am pro me. Like I am pro my family. It's not because they're black. Like I come from a family where there's multiple races. You can look at my siblings and see it's way more than just black here. So the concept of pro-black don't make sense to me. Like I don't believe in doing anything because I'm black. That sounds stupid.
I say this to say that when people say you date as a race, you're not pro-black. So what happens if you date somebody that supports your cause? Let's say that you date a white woman. And
I was just gonna. Oh my! Why are you like reading my mind? I was just gonna say that.
Because I always say, you date a white woman. Let's say we use white woman. You date a white woman, and she makes you greater based on the assets she brings to you. You're doing more for your community because you have a woman like her on your side. You're making more money being able to invest in businesses in your community because you have a woman like that on your side. She's fully in your program, helping you donate to the homeless. I mean, feed the homeless, donate to shelters. She's helping talk to the kids in your community because she's on your program. Would you not be pro-black because she's white, even though she may be make
Well, they would say no, you wouldn't be pro-black because they're gonna attack pro-black. They're gonna attack the blackness on that nuclear level of how you put forward. So if they would say if you're gonna be pro-black, then you should be black because if you start having kids, then now you're not staying with black. You're now diminishing or you're now diluting the blackness by dealing with the other races. So they would say that no. It doesn't matter about her being a part of the cause. She's not black. And pro-black would be putting black first, black with black. That like they sell the idea of wanting to have like, you know, the black banking, the black agriculture, the black, they want black. So if you're outside of black, then they consider you not being pro-black.
But I can have
they pretty clear with their stances. Like no,
I can have a bigger impact. I can have a bigger
it's
impact.
It's not about your impact. It's not about just your impact.
I'm not trying to justify it. I'm just speaking on it. I can have a bigger impact on other black people and progress the culture in a more positive way than the person that got a black wife. You know
but that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about, though. Mm-hmm. So they would tell you no. But I think the whole pro-black thing's stupid. But they would tell you no. They very clear with that. No, it don't matter about being on the call. No, black. Push that black forward. Black children, black this, black shirt, black pants, all black everything. They put the car need to be black. They black. The dogs all black. No golden retrievers. Only black Labradors. They want every black. I mean, that's they be clear where they stand with that shit. That shit's stupid, but I mean that's what they do. Oh man, let's get a little deeper. So I think the last night we did a show on the something to say with with my brothers Deuce and Kev. And we were talking about like things generating around like relationships. And one of the things that come to my mind because of the way we were talking was we were talking about since people know we're talking about representation. Is a person wrong for simply falling for your representative? Because people always put their best foot forward, and people love to say stuff like, "Oh, you changed" or whatever may have you, and all this right here. So, since we're talking about representation, if the representation, like, first, well, I'm gonna deal with this in a couple areas, but I'll keep it this way first. Are they wrong for falling for your representative? Are they foolish? What you think, Matt?
I got caught up really quick. My bad. I'm acknowledging complete statement as well too. I see it if you watch it. So also, I would say you're not foolish for falling for a person representative because they're deceiving you. If it keeps happening, if it happened to you multiple times, this says that that's the issue with you. But if it's happened to you one time, I wouldn't say you're foolish or ignorant for falling for it. Well, maybe you're ignorant to they be deceiving you, but you're not foolish for falling for it because you didn't know, and they actually just played the role of something that didn't, they didn't represent themselves in the forefront. So I wouldn't say you're foolish because of that, but I would say you need to come up with a better process of being able to find out who people are before you fully dive into it heading forward, because there's ways you can get around it. There's certain tests that you can't pass this test unless this is you, especially consistent. So you need to have more barriers, more obstacles for a person to get through to really prove that this is them than you had previously. You need to tighten that structure up that you got.
Easy, what you think about that? Is a person wrong for falling for the representative?
I mean, no, I don't think so. I mean, how are they supposed to know? I think that if that person is representing themselves in a way that's not authentic to themselves, like you can't really blame anybody else for that except for the person who's pulling the act of falsehood. So yeah, I don't think you can really blame that person. Like they're not the person at fault who's doing the wrong thing there.
So I agree with what you said, and just like how CT said that you can't. I mean, they only fell for what you presented to them. I don't think that they can be wrong, but there are people who say that you should have did like how Matt was talking about doing like a due diligence, and there was ways around that. So some people would say that because you only chose to take the person as what they said and you move forward, they would say you're wrong for that because you didn't do a proper due diligence before moving forward with that person.
What do you mean by due diligence? No one has the time to be researching, and doing.
I mean, but if you want to be with, but if you want to be with somebody, shouldn't you have the time?
Oh, well, I thought okay, so if this is just a random person, then yes. But if this is the person you're trying to be with, then okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about the relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the thing, and I heard other people say it as well. But Kevin Samuels, before he passed, he used to always say certain guys that got wealth because their wealth is on the line. They don't care if the woman feel like you're insecure or not. They're talking to your previous boyfriends. They're talking to your family. They're talking to certain friends. They're putting money up to have you invested. They're doing their due diligence to see who is this person before I marry this person. And if the woman got a problem with it, she can't be the right person. This is understood. I'm going to do my research. And I'm going to do my due diligence to make sure I'm getting into this with the right knowledge of who you are.
So let's deal with it from the other side. Is the person wrong for giving you a representative and not being their true self in the beginning? Are they wrong? What
In
you
the
think about it?
beginning, no. In the beginning, no. Like, because everybody has, like, a filter, like, if I was, like, who I am when I'm just, like, by myself alone, like, that's people, I don't know. That's, like, no. Like, that's just, like, something that, like, is we naturally conserve and, like, we reveal later on who we actually are. So in the beginning, I don't think, I think everybody has, like, a certain barrier about them, to preserve themselves initially at first. As time moves on, if you're still, like, acting like, some type of, like, weird robot, then, like, that's one thing. But, like, I don't think that, like, initially you can really help how you're, like, conserving yourself.
So easy. If you had to put a timeline on it, like how long before that representative got to get the fuck out? Because you said in the beginning ain't nothing wrong with it. So how long can that representative stay before you be like, all right, now, motherfucker, you need to start being the representative need to go, and I need to see who you are. If you had to put it
Well,
on, how long would you
that
say?
depends. That depends on how comfortable you make that person. Yes.
Would you give them a time? Like you personally?
I mean, no. That's it's like, okay, I know this is not who you really are. You have a certain amount of time to, like, like, come out. It's like, no. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's not. That's not natural. That's, like, even gonna, like, that's gonna cause the representative to, like, be on steroids at that point. Like, you just have to, like, make them feel comfortable, accept them, and there's ways you can kind of do that, where they feel, like, comfortable around you, and, like, they kind of, like, feel like they feel like these barriers are naturally kind of, like, breaking down, especially with, like, women, like, we have to, like, preserve ourselves in a certain way so we don't come off a certain way, because, like, there's just, like, so much, like, other standards that were held to us. So, like, if we were just, like, if I had a choice, I'd just be chilling in, like, my bonnet, just, like, just hanging out, just, eating my hot Cheetos on some real ratchetry. But, like, I have this representative where it's like, okay, we're gonna have a certain class level. We're gonna, like, come correct, so, like, we're treated correctly, because unfortunately the bonnet representative is not gonna get treated that well.
So I had just had up, but CT93 said, yes, they are cheating themselves and robbing the person with the option to like you for who you really are. Y'all agree with
Well, no, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. What the heck? Because I'm so many versions of myself. I'm not just one person. There's so many versions of me.
So
the representative is me as well, too. Like, you guys are failing to realize that. That's a part of me as well.
Well, I mean, for some people, the representative is a part of them, but some people, the representative is a complete facade. It ain't them at all. They're literally just intending to be something else.
Well, I can't speak for those people, but for me.
And I think not in every case, so don't take offense to this. I think a lot of people that put a representative up, that mean it's something that they're insecure about as well. Because you're confident in who you are. It's nothing, me and you talk about this all the time, Kevin. It's nothing I'm going to say out loud that I'm going to be afraid that you're going to put out there. So I think it's the same way when you meet somebody. If you're really confident in what you are, what would there need to be hiding something from? It may be a little different for females because y'all are vulnerable, so y'all definitely think protect first, and as men, when we go in situations, we look at it as more we the protectors, so it's a little different coming from. I understand it's a little different coming from a man perspective, but definitely as a man, that would be crazy for a man to say that, because, like, what are you afraid that a woman's gonna do to you that you need to hide?
Now, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's all about insecurity. Like, yeah. I mean, of course, like, if I wasn't insecure, then I wouldn't need the representative.
Exactly.
So I definitely agree with that. I think, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Something about yourself you're not that confident in that you feel can actually hurt you. Because we're not talking about
something you feel like they wouldn't approve. Like it's something about like most people carry the representative because it's something that they feel like that person probably will not approve of about you.
Yep. Because I've done it before, you know what I'm saying? I'm at fault for doing it before, meeting a certain type of female and not being fully myself because you feel like the goofy side of you or something that you may like, they may not like, and it may hurt you. But now that I'm confident in who I am, I would never do that. You're getting who I'm supposed to be at the beginning. Now, deep, dark secrets and stuff you've been through, I can understand that. But when we talk about representative, we talk about your natural just personality and behavior around a person. Like that, why is that being kept away from a person?
Yeah, because they don't. I mean, people don't want people to turn away. So it's kind of like how what Izzy said about like the bonding. Like if the whole bonding thing is what you do at home, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you outside with that bonding in public, it's like, whoa, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, but I think you need to have. I agree with what CT said, and that kind of point you hit just went on what CT said. If you would like the way bonding in public, you go ahead and wear any public. So you meet the right guy that likes his woman.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
So all you gonna do is catch the wrong person, and now you're not being yourself, and it causes issues down the road.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like it's.
Go ahead.
Well, I just feel like, okay, so using like the example I just used, like, I usually don't like wear a suit and tie, but you wear that, to like an interview, or you wear that to your job, to like, or whatever job you wear, like the attire that you wear at your job that's best fitted for your job. Because like, that's like a representative of like what you are at that time. Doesn't mean like that's who I am at all times. It just means that this is just who I am, and it's a version of me, and it's like the edited version of me. I would not wear a suit and tie to the gym. I would not wear a suit and tie to go swim. That rhymed. But I just feel like there's like, again, there's like so many versions and representatives of you that can be authentic to you, but it's not like who you are at all times.
I agree with what KJ said earlier, though. Most people ain't giving a representative just because they want to show you a different part of them. Most people are giving a representative in dating to hide something. They're not doing it because I want to show you the third personality I got today. And the next time I want to show you, feel most people are doing it because it's something they think you want to approve of. They're doing it with with deceiving as a purpose. They're not doing it because I think the occasion calls for me to wear this dress for you today. I think the occasion that calls me. Now they're doing it because they're hiding something for the most part.
See, it's interesting you use the word deceit because that is exactly what that is. Mm-hmm. Because their fear of you not accepting something means they're trying to deceive you now.
Yeah.
So if we're dealing with deceit, then wouldn't that make them wrong?
Now, based on what Izzy said, I can see if you date, like, say, example, you dating somebody that's a high class person, and they take you to this event where it's gonna be the mayor there, this and that, and you're saying, okay, my personality, this event calls for this personality. That would be a situation where I can see, okay, she's not gonna be her goofy self or her everyday self because the event calls for that. But most dates are regular dates where you and that person get to know each other. You shouldn't be hiding nothing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Like if the date is more so just me and you, I don't see the purpose now to have the representative. Now, of course, now we going out here to the governor's ball. We both, most of the people in here gonna kind of be on their best behavior because you know what I'm saying. We also know that there's a bigger representation at play. It's not about just you as an individual. That this format has a representation of itself. So you're now trying to blend amongst that, but that's something different than if we just went out to eat at like Olive Garden. Like I don't understand why you selling me a whole nother image here. This is kind of crazy. But I mean I get why, because most people feel you might not approve. Mm-hmm. You might now you cutting up that chicken with a knife, knowing if I wasn't here, you wouldn't even be using utensils. You would have been straight hands. You know what I'm saying? Caveman style. But now, because I'm here, you sitting here cutting it up all nice and cute, trying to be cute. You putting on the representative. You're not being who you are. But that's a more lighter version of it. You know what I'm saying? Just small. But a lot of it get deeper. Some people, they representative is a nigga that make 100,000, but really they just a $40,000 nigga. But they representative, he makes 100, but the actual guy only makes 40. You know what I'm saying? Women do it all the time too. They carry a representative in the beginning of some of them do like they're a submissive woman, but as you go further, you start to realize like that ain't really her. That motherfucker combative as shit.
She's a dominatrix. Actually.
What they say? What pre-say? If they fall for if they fall for that one, then that has to be a version that you represent. Most time can't be switching back and forth. Constant shows inconsistent. I mean, yeah, that pretty much goes into the same. I mean, you being inconsistent is what gonna pretty much expose your representative. All right, gang. Listen, that's pretty much all I had. I just wanted to dive into a little bit of representation about how we what we resemble and how we reflect out here when we walk out here in the world. You know what I'm saying? Some representations require a lot more. I carry a representation. I can't, like me personally, I can't be out in public and do certain things because I do so much work with like kids and other stuff like that. I can't afford to act a certain way because there's too many people who hold me to a certain standard because of the work that I do. You know what I'm saying? It's a representation. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I didn't have this representation, I probably would maybe choke the shit out of somebody. You know, I'd fuck them up. But because I got a certain representation, I got to kind of have more discipline. I can't act out. But sometimes, I mean, that's what representation do sometimes. It keeps you from acting out. You don't want other things to be jeopardized. But, before we get up out of here, run the plugs. This wasn't too tough. This was pretty light. I think it was pretty good conversation, some good points being thrown out there. Izzy, tell the people where they can find you, what you got going on.
So, you guys can follow me at IzzyOjo94 on Instagram. So, hit that follow button.
Cool. Of course, I know, Matty B gonna say, Matthew Washington, I think at Facebook or whatever may have. I think that's what it is. I think he done said it enough. That's where he located at right now.
Yes.
So for my team, everybody know this is Humble Beginnings. Our new time is on Wednesdays as far as these panel conversations, and I got my new show rolling. The Is It Disrespectful? You're gonna start seeing a lot more of that. Those gonna be a lot more random pop-ups though. I might can't give you something set. I might gotta go how I feel. I might have something at a moment. I'll be like, yo, this shit disrespectful. I gotta throw a clip in. I might gotta play it a little different. So, but you definitely gonna always see something pop up. You know what I'm saying? Every week. You're gonna see the other show, Is It Disrespectful? This is another Humble Beginning, segment. And that's pretty much it, man. You only can find me on YouTube. I don't really care about these other social media outlets. I believe my business is my business and ain't to be heard. And I don't care about what other people got going on, so I don't need to follow you. So, till the next time, we are out. Peace.